Now of our daily bread and the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer, we've been going through the Sermon on the Mount, and now we've been in a part of the Sermon on the Mount is the Lord's Prayer. And what basically it is, everybody, is that Jesus' disciples could see what made Jesus, what invigorated and gave Jesus power. It was his prayer life. His prayer life was so powerful and so wonderful that they asked Jesus. They said, Jesus, what is it? How do you pray? And so what Jesus did is he didn't just tell you a rote prayer to pray. He actually gave you a prayer journey. Actually points to go on it, like at a GPS, or you do a map. If you go to AAA, and they'll go ahead and give you a map, and they'll put a marker on there and tell you where to stop. Well, in many ways, these are marker points to help us to know how to pray. It's not something we just pray to get through. It's actually a sequence. It should really be called the disciples' prayer. And so if you guys do me a big favor, you all stand up. We're going to do what I did in the Presbyterian church growing up, maybe in a Catholic church where you were, or wherever you were located. And we're going to do something. We're going to read the Lord's Prayer together. And so I'm encouraging you to memorize this. So what you can do on your own time is pray it unto the Lord. Here we go. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. You guys sound awesome. You may be seated. Thank you so much. By the way, I don't know if you realize this, but when Jesus was giving this sermon, he would sit down and everyone would sit up. Would you rather stand up and I sit down, or you rather sit down? All right, we'll do it the American way. Well, today we're talking about daily bread and what that means. Okay, so before we do that, let me go ahead and just kind of show you what we're talking about. I happen to have here a loaf of bread. This is sourdough. Actually, it's like a football. I could probably throw this thing. But bread is very important in antiquity in particular, because you have to understand bread was something you'd have to make every day. My first mission trip was to Guatemala. I remember going up on the mountain village where they had a coffee grove, and they made us bread in the morning. It was absolutely delicious. Then we had it for lunch. It was still good. And by dinner, it was okay. But the following day, you got up in the morning, that same bread was as hard as a rock. And they threw it to the pigs and the animals. You would never eat day-old bread. You just couldn't do it. In fact, how many of you are Italian? Okay, when in Italy, for example, we had a chance to go to Italy, and they had buffalo mozzarella, which is absolutely amazing. If you do not eat it that day, they throw it to the pigs. Today, we have it in the grocery store for weeks. But they understood the importance of fresh bread. And back in that day, you'd spend half the day preparing your food. You had no refrigeration. You had to go out every day, and you had to find and purchase food and put it together. And it wasn't that easy to come about. And so today we'll be talking about daily bread and what that means. How many of you heard, they don't pay me enough bread? Have you heard that? I'm dating myself. What means you're not getting enough money? Okay, but what I'd like to do right now is go back, and we want to look at the Lord's Prayer and see what it has to say and kind of redo it for a few moments. Before we do that, though, I want to ask you guys a quick question. Who here likes sourdough? Anyone like sourdough? Okay, if you like sourdough, you can go to Panera and pick up yourself a loaf. But you have to come up and get it. Yeah, go ahead. Newlywed. All right, there you go. All right. See, I offered, but you have to come and get it. Enjoy. This one is too hard. Okay. In this manner, therefore pray, Jesus says, our Father. He begins, our Father. And again, everybody, our Father it is a term of endearment. Our Father simply means, basically, without a better explanation in English, Daddy. Like, Daddy? Hi, Dad. I mean, calling God Father. Really an intimate calling. God. Father, like a little child that raises his hand, Daddy. And I remember when my kids were small, I used to come home, I used to get attacked by them. It's like having a dog. Now it's like I come home, where's everybody? But back in those days, they were excited, right? And our Father, Daddy. And so God wants us to have a close relationship with him where we know him, where he can call in and say, God, you are not just a God of creation, but you're my Father. Whatever I need. My daddy can beat up your daddy. Remember those things? Remember those days? Well, my mama can beat up both. Okay. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Hallowed be your name. So we talk about that. Now, what is that? Our Father in heaven. Now, not only is he your Father, but he's also in heaven. Do you know what? Heaven is amazing. So not only is he close to us, but he's the God of all the creation. In fact, just recently, the James Webb Space Telescope is an infrared telescope that they launched into orbit. It is now 1 million miles from Earth. It is fixated in a gravitational field that shadows the Earth. And so what they're doing now is they're setting up these infrared images, and they're finding such clarity and depth of the universe that no one astronomers, they're just baffled. It's so incredible. They're finding more systems, more stars, more galaxies. I mean, this is some of the pictures of it. It's just amazing. In fact, they look at it, and you see these little circles here? That would be like our Milky Way. Well, according to what I've been reading, I used to think it was suns. No, it's galaxies. It's like these Milky Ways. There are more galaxies like that than there are grains of sand on the planet. Our dad, who is in heaven, God, incredible, powerful, beyond the scope of the imagination, the strength of who God is. That's who we're serving. Not only, so he's not something we just take him for granted, but we realize how powerful and how strong he is. That's what we're talking about. Isn't that amazing, everybody? I mean, it just baffles the mind. I can't even comprehend this. There's too many choices of stars. It's like going to Cheesecake Factory. Did you ever see the menu at the Cheesecake Factory? I don't know what to order. It's like 20 pages long. Anyhow, I thought it was funny, but that's okay. In fact, you know what? We need to laugh a little bit more. All right, I got some bread jokes, okay? These are dad jokes, okay? I'm getting rid of my dad bod, but I still have the dad jokes. Here we go. All ready, guys? Why did the baker's credit card get declined? He didn't have enough dough. You guys are merciless here. How did the bread date his sweetheart? With lots of flowers. Thank you. How does a bread relax after it's finished baking? It loafs around. Thank you. Why did the bread go to the doctor? Because it felt crummy. And my favorite one, what do elves make sandwiches with? Shortbread. Now that's a good one. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So in this manner pray. All right, here we go. Our Father in heaven, hallowed, holy is your name. Set apart is your name. God, you are holy in everything that he is. He's amazing. He's powerful. We were just in the Adirondacks last week at a camp in the woods, and it was really cool at night. After the concert, we went into the lake. It was at 8:45, and it was a sunset. You looked into the sky. It looked like a parchment. It looked like a painting. It was absolutely gorgeous. You could see the moon coming through, and it was just, I'm like, holy, how beautiful. I've been to different places around the world, and I've seen amazing sights, and you're just taken back by it. Or looking at the night sky where it's nice and clear, and you can see the countless stars. Holy. Well, God is holy. He's set apart. He's perfect in every capacity. You and I long for perfection. We know there's something more than we're experiencing, and what God says, he's holy. He's set apart. He's beautiful, everything that you could ever want. So not is he your dad, he's in heaven, but holy is his name. If I had the ability to have a screen right here, which we do have, and behind the screen was God, and I would have put a little pinhole in it, the glory of God would make us all on the ground. We wouldn't be able to handle it. God's power, his majesty, his beauty, his perfection is beyond. We all long for perfection. Well, Christ is, and God is that perfection. Holy is your name. So what we do, we begin our prayer. We begin our prayer saying, Dad, I don't know about you, but sometimes I go to prayer, God, I can't stand this. This is horrible. God, I can't stand what's going on in this workplace or what's going on in our country. And you begin to complain and talk about whatever. This is really deep here. You want to write this down. Whatever you focus upon, you focus on. Now, that's deep. Whatever you focus on, you focus on. Or how about this one? Whatever you feed leads. So if you're looking at something and you're looking at all the negativity and you're praying all the problems, God, it stinks. I can't stand this. I can't. And you go on and on and on, and you don't get out of yourself. You don't get out of your own head. What happens, you begin to lather up faithlessness, anger, frustration, and it gets worse. But the thing about the Lord's Prayer, before you get to you talk about who God is. You say, you're my dad in heaven. You made all the universe. Holy is your name. Right? Holy is your name. Your kingdom come. God, let your kingdom come. You know what kingdom is? A rulership. Kingdom is authority. It's like we live in the kingdom of the United States. We talked about that last week. Before the will can be released, before God's will can be released in your life, he has to have jurisdiction in your heart. When he has jurisdiction, then he can pave ways or his will. So your kingdom come and your will be done. Your will be done. Only way his kingdom can come, only way the will can be done is you have to surrender the kingdom. If you're not experiencing what God would have for you, have you surrendered? Have you surrendered your life to him completely where he can have his way in your life? And so we go on to there. So your kingdom, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So what we're praying for is the kingdom of heaven to come. For example, imagine, if you will, we have two kingdoms right now. We have the kingdom of the earth, the kingdom of heaven. And when Christ came, what he did is we are in this in-between where we're experiencing the kingdom of heaven, but not yet completely. And so what we are, if you will, we're like embassies. That you and I are embassies of heaven, and you're an ambassador of that embassy of heaven. And so what we want to be able to do is let God's kingdom come upon earth. Now, one day what's going to happen, Christ is going to come back. His kingdom is going to come completely. We're going to have a new heavens and a new earth. He's going to set everything right. But right now, he set the pace. He set the course. And we're in that in-between stage yet. This is not heaven yet. Things are not perfect yet. Have you noticed? Or is it just me? Yeah, but it's happening. It's going to happen. And so he's calling us, your kingdom to come on earth. We want on earth as it is in heaven. And so you and I are conduits or portals or doorways that we want God's grace and heaven to flow through us. That's what Jesus talks about. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago. So in heaven, give us, now here we come today, give us this day our daily bread. Notice, he says it twice. Why didn't Jesus say, give us our daily bread? He didn't say that. He says, give us this day our daily bread. He wants to make sure we understand it's a daily walk with Christ. I wish we could just go once. For those of you that have newborns, wouldn't it be nice you feed them once a month and that's the end of it? Instead of every 2 hours, right? But it isn't that way. You and I have to feed on God every single day. We have been designed, our digestive systems require us to get fed daily. Fed daily. And so we go into the Lord's Prayer. I'm sorry, everybody. What does daily bread mean? First thing, there's two things we're talking about this morning. This first one is this: to pray for our daily natural needs. So what does bread represent? It represents what you need and what I need. Now, what's interesting is, notice it says our daily bread, not your daily bread. You see, it isn't just all about you. It's about us together. Now, in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus talks about getting to a quiet place and speaking to your Father in secret. But we must understand that he is our Father. It is not just about me. Just look at your neighbors. It's not about you. Say, it's about me. Okay. It's our daily bread. We're part of a community of believers. It's not just us. God's working through a bunch of people, right? And so pray to our daily natural needs. So we can pray for our daily natural needs. And so we look into the Old Testament. Give us this day our daily bread. And in Matthew 6, 9 through 13, Jesus talks about what this daily bread is. And we get into this part with Moses. In Exodus 16, what happens is the Israelites are outside of Egypt. They were there for 430 years. Now they're refugees in the desert, over probably a million of them. And God is training them how to live. Moses, we're hungry. We need something to eat. And then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I'm about to rain bread from heaven for you. And the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them. Notice that. They shall gather a day's portion every day. He makes it a double. He makes sure they understand. Every day, I'm going to give them a day's portion. They're to go out there. And so that's what they do. They go out in the morning. What was it? It was this like white substance, like a seed. And they would gather it. They would bring it back to their tents, and they would cook it. So God will provide you what you need, but you have to go out and get it. Just like that Panera card, Adam had to come up and grab it. I provided it, but now he has to go to the store and make it happen. He's got to get in his car. He's got to drive there. He's got to put some action into it. So God gave it. You have to go out and collect it, and then you have to bake it. So that's what they would do. All right? So that's what they did. Portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. And so what they would do is one day at a time. You know what they did? They gathered it, and they kept more for the second morning. And you know what happened to it? It spoiled. It got full of worms, and it stunk. And God was upset. I told you, daily bread. But they tried to hoard it. They tried to grab it, which we'll get into a little bit more about that. When the people of Israel saw, they said to each other, what is it? What is this stuff? Manna means what is it? It's like mystery meat. You ever had mystery meat? When I was growing, my mother used to make liver and onions and called it steak. It was like mystery meat. What is it? For those of you going to college, you're going to have a lot of mystery meats. Okay, what is that? Or your cafeteria, your high school, mystery meat. What is it? They didn't know what it was. For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given to you. Now, this is amazing. It was a sustenance that would keep them healthy and meet all the nutritional needs. But they got sick of it. And they were healthy. Now, give it to you to eat. This is what the Lord has commands. Gather it, each of you, one of you, as much as you can eat. You shall each of you take 1 omer according to the number of persons that each of you has in his tent. And the people of Israel did so. They gathered some more, some less, but when they measured it with an omer, not homer, an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing to be left over. And whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. You know what, everybody? Instead of looking at your neighbor and seeing what they're gathering, just take care of what you have. The moment you get yourself into trouble, you start comparing what they have more than I have. God will give you what you need. Thank God for what you need. Now, it's very interesting, by the way. They would gather the manna for 6 days. But on the 7th day, they didn't gather any. And that day did not go bad. So every other day, they had to get fresh manna. If they try to keep it overnight, it would spoil. But on the Sabbath, a day off, God would let them get double the amount, and it would not decompose, and they could have it the following day. Are we going to trust God with our time? You know, Sabbath is a day of rest. Before the law of Moses, in creation, God set up a day of rest. We would do ourselves a big favor by obeying God, by taking a Sabbath. It's part of the 10 Commandments. It's for your own good. It's for my good. I struggle with it at times as well. Taking a day off from your regular work and focusing it on God, doing no work that you normally do, doing things only that replenish you, and spending time with God. You know what that does, everybody? It gives you more strength. Do you know that I'm going to use this example? I haven't used this example in quite some time, so I have the ability to do it. But Chick-fil-A, they don't open on Sundays. Have you noticed? Okay? And they're more profitable than any fast food chain right now. They're one of the most popular and the most prosperous. Why? They take a day off. We're going to let our people relax. It's something that God put into the creative order. If you overwork, you can achieve more with less. Are you going to trust God with your time? Are you going to give God that time? And they did that, and look what God did through their lives. So, there's some temptations of provisions. Often in the church, we hear extremes. Either extreme, God wants you rich and a millionaire, and you got to walk around as a king's kid and confess and possess, or God wants you so poor that you're walking around just miserable. Well, which one is it? Well, I like what the proverber said. Proverber. It wasn't Solomon. I made a new word. You want to tell your feet? What'd you learn today? I learned a new word, proverber. Sounds good. Okay. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Give me just enough to satisfy my needs. Why? For if I grow rich, I may deny you and say, who is the Lord? What has happened to the United States of America? We're so rich. We have such prosperity. Look what I've done. I have all this I have. I can control. You see, what money does, money gives you options. Nothing wrong with that. Money's not evil. It's the love of money. But it's a big temptation. I believe the reason why God has not made some of us to have more money, it's his grace. Sometimes, I'm serious, it's his grace. Because if he gave us all the money, we might hurt ourselves even more. Ever see the people that win those big sweepstakes? They end up, they're horror stories often. Because if you can't handle the little you have, you're not going to be able to handle a lot more. And I was just talking to a friend of mine recently who is a believer in all that, and he came into some money, a significant amount of money. He says, you know, I'm amazed, Pastor, because even though I have this extra money now, I feel like I need more. He said, but I know God is enough. But he said, I can see how that can happen more and more. If I grow rich, I may, who is the Lord? Or, conversely, if I'm too poor, I may steal and thus insult God's holy name, which can happen, right? So each is a test. And to trust God when you don't have anything, and trust God when you have a lot. Will a man rob God? Yet you've robbed me, says the Malachi. By what way? How we robbed you? With our tithes and offerings. No, it's mine. I'm not giving it to God. And so often you and I will try to grab, and we live in grace, but God teaches us the principle of giving, to trust God. And I've been, all my life, my grandparents, my parents and I've seen God meet our needs. When we never thought he would meet our needs, he did. I never forget when my dad stepped out of his job and we continued to tithe and continued to give. We had no job. We had a kerosene heater and we wore sweaters. It was so cold. And God gifted our family over $75,000 from it's out of nowhere it came, and we never suspected it. And God provided for our family. If you adjust for inflation today, it was a lot of money. Don't look it up on the inflation calculator. There we go. I'm having the cat's got my tongue this morning. But if you say, what way have we robbed you? It's in our tithes and offering. It's all God's. This is God's. It's not mine. And so if I can trust him, he will give me more. So if we have enough for food and clothing, let us be content, the Apostle Paul says in Timothy. You know, listen, if you can't appreciate what you have, then why would God give you more? Let me say something that I've learned. If you can't be satisfied and content being single, you're not going to be satisfied and content being married. How many married people know what I'm talking about? Because you take you with you wherever you go. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to want to be married or wrong to have children or wrong to have a business, but if you can't be content where you are, then you're not going to be content where you're not. Because, my friends, it's not things that makes you content. It's God himself. And until we get rid of that mirage, until we get rid of that fallacy that things or people are going to make it. No, there's nothing wrong with getting married. But I'm saying if you think a person is going to make you happy, what you're doing is turning that person into a god. You're turning a business into a god. You're turning a social status into a god. And this is not what we're called to do. In Philippians 4:19, it says this, and my God will supply every, what? Need of yours according to his riches and glory. And the context of this passage, if you look at it in Philippians 4, Paul is talking about the gifts they were giving to the church. They were giving tithes and offerings to the church to help the church do what they had to do. He says, listen, guys, you trust God. He will supply everything you need if you are generous. So, first thing is this. You can pray for our daily and natural needs. There's nothing wrong with doing that. God, I need a new job. God, I need a new car. It's breaking down every other day. God, you know, I'm struggling with this, Father. I need a new washer machine. I need a new, whatever it is. God, I need money for college. Lord, something's in my throat. Lord, I need money for a new car. Whatever it is, God will provide, right? And so it's okay to ask God and watch what God will do. The second thing we do is this. To pray for our daily spiritual needs. I will tell you more important. Your spiritual needs. The state of your spirit. And so that's what we're called to do. And he answered and said to them, it is written, when Jesus was being tempted by the enemy in the wilderness, 40 days, 40 nights, the enemy said, turn these stones into loaves of bread. And Jesus said the following, Man shall not live by bread alone. He's quoting Deuteronomy. But by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And so I want to go right now to Deuteronomy 8, a good place to read today if you want to go later on and read. And so what did God do? Moses is explaining to the Israelites what God did through the manna and through them being humbled. So he humbled you and allowed you to hunger. Listen, the only way you and I grow often is through adversity, when you're hungry. I look back on my life. The greatest times of growth for me is when I went through the hardest time. If you go to the gym with 5 pounds, nothing's going to happen. You got to break down that muscle so it builds up more. God often will put us through circumstances and allow us to, yes, hunger and go through difficulty to build up our stamina and to help us to learn to trust God. So he allowed you to hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man, this is what Jesus was quoting, shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. So let me just explain something to you. We mentioned the fact that if you take the bread and you were to bring it inside and try to store it overnight, what would happen? It would decompose. Yesterday's bread is today's religion. Yesterday's bread is today's dead religion. When you and I live on yesterday, Lord, I remember when God did it, and there's nothing wrong with thanking God for the past. But if you're living on yesterday's bread, it's decomposing. Now, the problem is we have preservatives in our bread today. So you can buy Wonder Bread, or even this bread. It has little preservatives. If this is real, complete, well, this is like a football. I feel like Tom Brady. Not quite. But imagine. So it would be hard as a rock the following day because it has preservatives. What we have today? Well, I went to church yesterday, but today I listened to a podcast. I had on K-Love. Oh, I heard a great teaching from this person. I listened to this YouTube video. And I have all these spiritual things that help me. But am I getting my own fresh bread for myself? No. I'm going to church. But are you meeting God by yourself? Are you see everybody, the only way you get the manna is you have to go out and get it. And the fathers would go out for their families. Guys, it's impossible, and parents, it's impossible to do a good job with your family. We have to get a word for our family. We have to go out there and get God's manna. And so if you don't go out there every day, you begin to live on yesterday's bread. But we have the advantage today of preservatives. So I have all this religious stuff going on. But have you heard from God? You know, I want to encourage you that you should get into the Word every day. Read it. And if you don't know where to start in the Gospels, either Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And this is what I encourage you to do. Read it until God speaks to you. And get a version you understand, which is not, we don't have time to go into today. But I will tell you that if you ask me, what is the Lord telling you? I can normally tell you what I'm going through. I can look through my notes, and what I have learned and what I've read, often God will speak to me. He'll take the word, and he'll breathe new life in it, and it applies to my life. And I feel like God is speaking to me and giving me what I need for that day. He may not tell me what I want to know, but he's telling me what I need to know for that day. And if you'll trust God, he will do that with you. I'm telling you, it's so important. When you and I begin to live on yesterday's revelation, the religion is that. Day-old bread is religion. Fresh bread is an ongoing relationship with Almighty God. But my Father gives you, Jesus talks right here. Jesus, by the way, to bring context here, he just spent time with over probably 15 to 20,000 people. There were 5,000 men at the seaside, and Jesus fed them fish and chips. 5 bread and 3 fish. And he had that, 5 loaves and 2 fish, whatever it was. And he fed them this wonderful fish and chips. It was the best bread they ever had. It was absolutely amazing. Remember, everybody, you have to go out and cook all day long. You have to gather all the things. Here's Jesus now listening to a great sermon, and now he gives you an amazing, the best bread and the best fish you ever had. And when they were done, they collected 12 baskets full. So the people were excited about it. So they start following Jesus around. Hey, Jesus, give us more of this. And Jesus says to them, with a church of 20,000 people, he says, hey, listen, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can have no part of me. So we went from a mega church to a small country church. People began to walk away from him. This is the hard thing. And so it brings us a little bit of the context here. And so they're asking him, our fathers ate manna in the desert, as it is written. They're asking him. He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven, but my Father, Here you go. I'm not going through puberty, don't worry. Okay. My Father gives you the true bread from heaven, for the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the word. That's the true bread. What's the true bread? Then he said to him, Lord, give us this bread always. God, give us, Lord, show me what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, God. I need bread, God. What's going to happen with my family? What's going to happen to my spouse? We're getting along in years. What happens if I'm widowed? What happens if I'm a widower? God, what school, what career, what person? Should I have children? Should I move? Should I do this? I want to know, God, what should I do? Lord, I need spiritual, Lord, I need to have peace in my heart. Then they said to him, Lord, give us this bread always. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. What is Jesus saying? What I am the bread you need. You don't need to learn about me. That's important, but you need to have me. You need to know me. I am the source. I am the bread of life. I am your way. I am your truth. Everything you need comes through me and by me and from me. And until you understand that, you're going to be wasting your time. I am the bread. But God, I want to know about tomorrow. I'm going to give you what you need today. What you need today. Every day I'll give you enough. Take what you have today. And my friends, there are days when you and I will struggle. We don't know what God's calling us to do. We're struggling with what he's asking us to do. So what does daily bread mean? It means to pray for our daily natural needs and to pray for our daily spiritual needs. Give us this day our daily bread. I am, Jesus says, the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. Jesus is our answer. He's the most important thing we should go after, everybody. It is Jesus himself. And sometimes I don't know what to do, God. I don't see what the next step is. What are you doing, Lord? And sometimes we feel overwhelmed. I can't see the next step, God. And what God is calling us to do is he's calling us to letting go and trusting God. Letting go and trusting God. And God, I'm going to believe you for your bread. I'm going to go, Lord, I know you give me what I need today. For all our natural and spiritual provisions, go and trusting God. You know, I want to tell you a story. I have a service director at a car dealership I used to go to get my car fixed. And he had a boat. He would go on the Long Island Sound. And he told me the story that he was out there one time. And all of a sudden, the fog came out of nowhere. It was so thick, he could not see more than 4 or 5 feet in front of him. And he had to get back because the storm was coming. I have to get back. He did not know how to get back. All he had was his GPS and his instruments, and he had to follow that GPS. Could not see at all. He had to trust what was right in front of him, and he drove his boat right back into the dock. He was absolutely amazed he got there. There are times you and I don't know what to do. We have to let go of trying to control it all and all the anxiety that comes. God, what do you want to do? God, what's the next step for my life? God, I need to know now. I need to know now. What did I tell you right now? What God told you in the light, do not doubt in the dark. What God told you in the light, do not doubt in the dark. Hold on to what he told you and live day by day. But you have to be able to let go and trust that Jesus will give you what you need every day. One of our dear people that grew up in this church, his name is Brian Cosmos. He asked you to take the TV away. And he grew up here, and he went to Kairos Bible School, and he did internships here, and I'm just so proud of him. But he went through a period of time that he had this disease. He graduated Bible school. He had these plans for a future. Things were looking up for him. And all of a sudden, he got this thing called Guillain-Barré. If I said it correctly, it sounds like Green Beret. But he got this disease where he could not move his limbs. He was in the hospital. He didn't know what was going on. Then he finally got out. He was weak. Everything fell apart in his life. And in that struggle, he had to learn how to let go. And this next song is autobiographical, and that's really a powerful song. Go ahead and show it.
Teach me how to live surrendered, 'cause I feel like I could fall forever. And I really need to know how to let go of the unknown. Lead me on through this season, 'cause I can't afford to follow feelings. And I really need to know how to let go of the unknown. Help me breathe again, so I can feel again. I have nowhere else to run, so I'm letting go. When I can't see the end, Lord, draw me in. I can't do this on my own, so I'm letting go. Oh, I'm letting go. All that I can hear is silence, or I can't get all my thoughts to quiet. I really need to know how to press into the one who knows. When all that I can feel is broken, and a little piece of me is stolen, I really need to know how to press into the one who knows. Help me breathe again, so I can feel again. I have nowhere else to run, so I'm letting go. When I can't see the end, Lord, draw me in. I can't do this on my own, so I'm letting go. Oh, I'm letting go. When all the question marks aren't leaving, for what seems no rhyme or reason, I will hold on to the one who gives me hope. When the days are seeming longer and the sting is getting stronger, I will let your love become my antidote. Oh, I'm letting go. I know I'm not alone. Help me breathe again, so I can feel again. I have nowhere else to run, so I'm letting go.
Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Are we willing to let go of everything we're striving for and realize that Jesus is all we need? Are we going to grab for things and other things that are temporary? Jesus is the reason. When you and I let go of trying to control and trying to gather and trying to bypass God, and instead of looking at his hand, we go for Jesus. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe you're struggling with a bunch of things. God, what's going to happen with my marriage? What's going to happen to my spouse? What's going to happen with my career? God, I don't know what the next steps are. And we struggle. We try to make things happen on our own. And Jesus says, I am your bread. Today I am your bread. But God, I need to know the future. You see, the answer comes today. What has God given you today? Thank him for it. God, I know, but I've given you today. Thank me for today. Honor me for today, and I'll help you with tomorrow. But I give you what you need today. And what happens is you and I all get anxious. We try to control tomorrow, or we try to go back and make up for yesterday, but we can't. We have to learn to let go and say, God, you're my sustenance. I'm going to trust you today. How do you do that? It's by surrender. Life is a series. A life of Christ is a daily surrendering. The Bible says, I pick up my cross and I surrender or die daily. You see, everybody, I struggle with it. You struggle with it. Let's be real. I'm going to ask you to bow your heads and close your eyes. Oh, God. Father, all of us in this room, maybe we're not going through a difficult time, but perhaps we're praying for a child that's wayward, oh God, or maybe someone that has a fatal disease, or maybe something that we're facing, God. We don't know what to do with it. And we need your help, oh God. And Lord, we're trying to see, and it seems like the more we try to help ourselves, the worse it gets, oh God. Lord, we just need to know the next step. So Father, we want to let go of control of ourselves. We want to let go of advice that's not from you. And we want to hold on to you, Jesus. You promise that today, give us our daily bread. And Father, we thank you that you give us that daily bread. And Lord, in Jesus' name right now, we want to let go of control. And we want to say, God, we thank you for what you've given us. And we hold on to you, Jesus, for you're the only way, you're the only truth, and you're the only life. All provision comes from you. Lord, we choose to trust you with the finances you've given us. We choose to trust you with the relationships you've given us. We choose to trust you with everything that we have, oh God. You're the source. And Lord, I pray a setting free would take place. As the world is turned around and going through difficulty, that we would be secure, knowing you give us our daily bread. In Jesus' name, amen.